Jake in St. Charles, Missouri. You're on the Ben Shapiro Show. Go for it, Jake.
Hey, I was wondering if you could give me some advice. I've been, my wife works for a company who, she's surrounded by coworkers who are pretty openly liberal, and they tend to do a lot of open commenting about bashing Trump, bashing Republican ideals, and it's kind of she's friends with them, but she doesn't want to have it affect her professional
development
status with the company. Yeah, so I just wanted to see, is there anything you would advise me to tell her as far as how she can navigate that situation?
Yeah, I mean,
and without
Jake, it's rough. I mean, the fact is that conservatives are constantly put under this sort of pressure at work. My wife, she happens to be married to a very prominent conservative, as it turns out, and for years she kept it quiet at her work, like working with doctors and nurses. She kept it quiet for years that I was her husband, and if she was asked what I do, she'd say, "Well, he's in politics, or he's a lawyer or something." Keep it pretty vague, because the blowback in mentioning conservative politics is so strong. What I will say is that ignoring the blowback is a mistake, that you sort of have to decide on your priorities. So it's quite possible that your priority is speaking out and being in a career where you feel comfortable saying what you can say, working in a business with people who are not going to punish you for saying what you're going to say. It's also possible that your career aspirations require you to subsume your sort of political opinions, to keep them to yourself. I really believe that generally the workplace should not be a place for politics. I'm annoyed that there are so many people on the left who don't believe that. We generally don't talk politics publicly in this office, really, right? In my office, and I run a political organization. Like, I'll talk about it with my producers because we're doing the show every day. But when I'm just walking around the office, I'm not spending a lot of time talking about Donald Trump or Barack Obama to random members of our staff. It's just not something that really is done. It's very irritating that folks on the left simply assume that they get to talk whatever kind of crap they want to talk and that everybody else is supposed to shut up.
Exactly. I was just kind of wondering how there's a double standard there. It seems like that they feel that they can speak out openly and there won't be any repercussions if they're support the left. But if
the intimidation is incredibly strong, and also conservatives tend to be a lot less litigious. They tend not to be the ones who go to HR if they're offended by something. And people on the left very often will go to HR. You say something political, and next thing you know, they've gone to HR, and the company, being afraid of legal liability, is always going to give all of the grease to the squeakiest wheel. It's certainly difficult for conservatives out there.
On the other hand, would you recommend her going to HR on her behalf if do you think that would backfire?
Typically, I'm not a fan of going to HR. I mean, just generally, and that's not me speaking up as an employer. I just think that if I were an employee, going to HR rarely results in exactly what you want from HR. While it's true that you are catered to a certain extent, the company starts to see you as a problem. Honestly, if the workplace is that uncomfortable, you got to look for another workplace, or you have to just acknowledge that this is going to be a place where you don't talk politics, or you can say to people, listen, I'd really prefer to talk about something else. Let's just shift the topic. Jake, really appreciate the call. Matthew, you're in Louisville, Kentucky. Go for it, Matthew.
Hey, Ben. I'm a big fan.
I appreciate it. Go for it, sir.
Although I'm a Trump supporter, who do you think has the best chance of beating him in the 2020 election and Republicans should be most worried about?
I mean, I still think that the person that the Republicans should be most worried about is Biden, namely because the best thing Democrats can do is run a dead body. Really, I think they should run a corpse. If they could actually, find Bernie, not Bernie Sanders, like Weekend at Bernie's Bernie, and then just staple a wig on him and prop him up and roll him around on a dolly and have him run for president, I think that is their best option, because if the election is a referendum on Trump as a human being, Trump is in trouble. If the referendum is on the Democrats and their policies, the Democrats are in trouble. And Biden is the closest thing to a sort of default candidate. He doesn't have any really hard political positions. He's very mush-mouthed about what he believes and what he is going to do. He doesn't promise huge systemic change. The fact that he's a bumbler and a stumbler and old and it makes him non-threatening. So it's actually an asset. Like, all the things that make him a liability in the primaries make him an asset during the general election. Now, does that mean he's going to win? No. I mean, the man's vulnerable on a wide variety of scores. But if I'm the Trump team, I'm much more concerned about Joe Biden running than I am about Bernie Sanders, who can making the election referendum on Sanders is easy as pie. I mean, that is just simple. And doing it on Warren is similarly, I think, simple. So I'd be most worried about Biden.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Matthew. Thanks for the call. Pete in Las Vegas, you're on the Ben Shapiro Show. Go for it, Pete.
Hey, Mr. Ben, how you doing? Congratulations on your pregnancy, sir.
I appreciate it. It's my wife's pregnancy, but I was definitely involved, at least in the inception and at the conclusion. I will be more involved, I think so.
Well, I hope so. I was wondering if we could talk about music for just a second.
Sure.
Have you taken out your violin lately? I became a premium member when you endorsed the Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan on your show.
Oh, yeah.
Some of your favorite pop acts. And so I'm wondering when you're going to sit in with them.
Oh, man. I mean, I would love to sit in with those guys. I think that it's very difficult in the music world to get anybody to sit in with you if you are not on the same page politically. I don't know where those guys are politically, but the blowback of having me on stage to play with some rock band, I think would be extraordinary. I mean, Dennis Prager, my friend Dennis Prager, actually was supposed to conduct I think it was the Santa Monica Symphony over at Disney Hall. And there was such a blowback from the orchestra that it turned into a national controversy. And I was conducting an orchestra. I can't even imagine a high-profile band allowing somebody like me up on stage to play violin. Like Ben Folds will play with Pete Buttigieg, but I think it's going to be a while before anybody allows me to play violin with them on stage. Listen, they wouldn't allow Condi Rice to play piano with them on stage either. So, Pete, I appreciate the call. Will in Roseburg, Oregon. You're on the Ben Shapiro Show. Go for it, Will.
Hi. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a gigantic fan. I just wanted to say a few things about me real quick. I'm 30 years old. I'm married with 6 kids. I'm a trade worker. I'm a welder. And like I said, I am from Southern Oregon. There's a big liberal just air of the entire state.
Yep.
And so my question is, what can I do in particular with the current state of how my state is going currently to ensure that my children and my family and all the other families like mine can make money and live comfortably without worrying too much about all the stupidity coming from Portland and all the other parts of Oregon that have more power.
Well, it's really difficult. I mean, I've lived in a leftist state my entire life. I've lived in either California or I was in Cambridge, Massachusetts for 3 years. And the fact is that I think every day about moving out of the state. I mean, it's a serious consideration because this state has become such a trash heap. The taxes are so high. The chances that the state is ever going to recover are basically nil. And so you're seeing people flee. I don't know that Oregon is in quite the same state. There have been, sort of at a local level, there are more Republicans in Oregon, particularly Southern Oregon, actually. There are a lot of conservatives in Southern Oregon that people don't think about. But the fact is that as these states polarize, as blue populations multiply and red populations leave, things are going to get worse and worse. Now, I would always have a bag packed, Will. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think that the country is going to get more divided before it comes back together because there's been a significant attempt to divide the country along political and philosophical lines. I don't think it's going to abate anytime soon. The best you can hope for is control of your local government that at least protects your values. But once that collapses, I'm not sure how much there is. Will, really appreciate the call. In just 1 second, we'll get to more of your calls at 855-236-3228. First, got to tell you about something I am doing this year. So a few years back, many years back now because I'm getting older, I got my braces off. And when I did, my orthodontist was like, wear these retainers and all will be well. And that lasted for like a year. And then the retainers were gone. And I've never worn retainers since. And then my teeth started moving around. They started actually clashing with each other. You start getting little chips if your teeth start moving around that way. And so now I have signed up with Candid and I am using their retainers. I'm using their clear aligners on a regular basis. Candid will actually deliver clear aligners directly to you and straighten your teeth for 65% less than braces. Unlike braces, Candid's clear aligners are comfortable, removable, totally invisible, so you can transform your smile without anyone noticing a thing. Plus, you never have to set foot in a doctor's office or a waiting room. Your treatment is prescribed remotely by a licensed orthodontist, and Candid delivers everything you need directly to your door. Unlike other companies, Candid only works with orthodontists, never general dentists, which means your treatment will be designed by an expert in tooth movement with 20 years of experience on average. If you have a special event this year, it is a perfect time to get those teeth aligned, and Candid can do it for you quickly and easily. You can do it from the comfort and privacy of your own home. If you're ready to take the first step towards straighter teeth, now is the time. Check out candidco.com/Ben. That's candidco.com/Ben. Use code Ben for $75 off, so you get a great deal. candidco.com/Ben, code Ben. candidco.com/Ben. Use code Ben, and you get $75 off. Randy in New York, you're on the Ben Shapiro Show. Go for it, Randy.
Yeah, I just had a question for you about the impeachment trial going on.
Sure, go for it.
My question is the entire thing is based on obstruction and abuse of power, and my question with that is does that same principle apply to Congress as well as the presidency?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, I would assume that if a congressperson is guilty of abuse of power or obstruction, they could be brought up on impeachment charges. Now, there have been members of Congress who've been brought up on such charges before. It's usually an ethics charge. It starts off in the ethics committee. Maybe they're impeached or they resign. But sure, I mean, you wouldn't actually have to commit a crime in order to be impeached. That's why the argument that crime always has to be attached to impeachment is not true. With that said, do I think that members of Congress are ever held to the same standard as the president when it comes to this sort of stuff, particularly President Trump. I doubt it. Maxine Waters is one of the people presiding over this trial. And Maxine Waters, I mean, she's awful. And Maxine Waters has been deeply corrupt for decades. I mean, the number of deeply corrupt members of Congress is significantly higher as a percentage than the number of deeply corrupt presidents that we've had. Randy, really appreciate your call. Let's see. Ryan in Ohio, you're on the Ben Shapiro Show. Go for it, Ryan.
Yeah, hey, Ben. How's it going, man?
Hey, doing pretty well. Go for it, sir.
Nice. Yeah, so, me and a bunch of my buddies here, we all love you, and we're all kind of wondering when there's going to be Ben Shapiro for president.
Oh, dude, it sounds awful. I mean, honestly, I have a great job. I have a great life. Nothing sounds worse to me than getting on the road 24 hours a day and either dragging my family around with me, my wife and now almost 3 kids, and getting them on the road or abandoning them and doing that. Nothing sounds worse than having to try and pander politically, which is what all these folks try to do. That'd be the only fun of it, honestly, would be getting on the road and then just saying whatever the hell I wanted. And it worked for Trump, so I don't see why it couldn't work here. But the job itself also seems deeply miserable because, honestly, like, if you're the president, the best thing you can do is make yourself irrelevant. The best thing you can do is just minimize your presence and make your office less powerful and slice and dice the executive branch. And basically your only job becomes to defend the country. Now, I'm very much in the mold of Calvin Coolidge when it comes to what the president ought to do governing. What I really enjoy doing is talking to people about ideas, and you really don't get to do that very much as president of the United States. So would I ever do it? Sure. I mean, the let's put it this way. The circumstances dictating that I run for president would have to be so overwhelming that I would have almost no choice in the matter. But would I want to do that? Hell no. It sounds awful. And then people tear apart your life and spend all their time digging up crap on you. And if you're an honest person and you try to spend any time doing any sort of reflection about yourself, then you end up doing what I've done, right? I have like a full list online of things that I think that are dumb that I've said over the course of the last 20 years. But they'll always dig up something else. And you can spend your life worrying about that, or you can go live your life and be comfortable and enjoy your job. So I don't know, Ryan. It sounds absolutely terrible, but I appreciate the sentiment. Thanks for your call, Ryan. All righty, let's see. Who else? Michael in Wisconsin. You're on the Ben Shapiro Show. Go for it, Michael.
Hi, Ben. Big fan. I just want to say thank you. I got my Leftist Tears tumbler. It's great. I was going to send you one because I work as an engraver, but I don't have an address for fan mail.
I appreciate it. Maybe my producer can get you one.
Oh, that'd be beautiful. My question for you is, based on all of the stuff that Tom Fitton has been coming out with Judicial Watch, all the stuff about Schiff obtaining Nunez's emails illegally, and all this other like backroom dealing going on, why hasn't the administration simply just countersued based on that? I mean, for defamation, that'd be a good start.
So, Michael, the problem with defamation law is that defamation law is extremely demanding. If you want to file and win a defamation lawsuit, slander or libel, you actually have to prove, because the president is a public figure, you have to prove malicious. And malicious is a really, really high standard. So willful and maliciously lying about somebody. To take an example, Jerry Falwell sued, I believe it was Hustler magazine way back in the day. And the case was that Hustler magazine had printed a cartoon that showed Jerry Falwell, I believe, stripping his mother in an outhouse or something, right? Because it's Hustler magazine. And Falwell sued, and he said, this is not correct. And the court said, well, that's not malicious. Okay, if that's not malicious, I don't know what the hell is malicious. So the standard for public figures is extremely, extremely high. Also, right now, the agenda of the administration is just to get this thing over with and move on to the 2020 race. And I think that anything that lengthens this process is likely to be a waste of time and or a bad idea. So that I think is why the president hasn't sued yet. But listen, I wouldn't rule anything out. The president has not been shy in his threats to sue, although he has not filed nearly as many lawsuits as he has threatened over the course of his career. Michael, really appreciate the call. Coming up, we're going to take more of your calls at 855-236-3228. That's 855-236-3228. So now is your opportunity to get on the line. Ask me a question. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.